No one at the outdoor shooting range paid attention to the quiet woman in the faded hoodie. Not until the Navy SEAL commander walked past her lane and froze like he'd seen a ghost, because on her wrist was a tattoo he had seen only once before on the hand of the woman who saved his life. The wind rolled across the high desert range, carrying the smell of dust, gunpowder, and cold metal. It was a slow Saturday afternoon, the kind where regulars lounged under canopies, bragging about their scores, their gear, their expensive optics, and then there was her, a small woman, not old, not young, somewhere in her late 40s. Brown hair tied back in a messy bun, clothes simple, almost worn, a canvas tote bag hung from her shoulder, no patches, no gear, no attitude, just quiet. Her name was Maria Torres, but no one asked. To the men at the range, she was invisible. Until she became a target. Two younger shooters nudged each other as she stepped into lane 9. "Look at this." One whispered, "Mom's going to try shooting." His friend snickered. "She probably thinks a magazine is something you read." Maria heard them. She didn't flinch. She placed her tote on the bench, opened it gently, and pulled out an old 9mm pistol. Clean, but clearly used, not tactical, not trendy, just a gun. The mockery started immediately. "Hey lady," one called, smirking, "safety's on the left side, just trying to help." The group behind them laughed. Maria nodded politely. "Thank you, I know." She loaded her magazine with slow, steady hands. Not slow like she was unsure, slow like she had done it more times than she could count. But no one noticed that detail. At the far end of the range, a convoy of black SUV pulled in. No one paid much attention until the range officer straightened his vest and whispered something quickly into his radio. The atmosphere shifted. A man stepped out of the lead SUV, broad, older, sharply built, wearing a simple baseball cap and sunglasses. He moved with a silent authority, the kind that couldn't be faked. Commander Ethan Cross, 20, 3 years Navy, SEAL team leadership. Recently retired but still carrying the intensity of every battlefield he'd ever walked. His team followed behind him, quietly greeting the range staff. They were there for a private demonstration, but Cross didn't like special treatment. He preferred to blend in. He walked past each lane. Until he reached hers. He wouldn't have stopped except something caught his eye. When Maria rolled up her sleeve to steady her grip, he saw it. A tattoo. A small, simple ink mark on the inside of her wrist. A single black feather with 2 tiny initials underneath. Cross's breath slipped out of his chest. His hand trembled. He hadn't seen that symbol in 14 years. Not since Kandahar. Not since the dust, the fire, and the medic who knelt beside him while bullets cracked overhead. The medic who saved him. The medic who vanished after that mission. The medic whose name he never learned, but whose tattoo burned itself into his memory. He stepped closer. Maria didn't notice. She simply adjusted her stance. Calm, careful, deliberate. Then she fired. 12 shots. 12 identical holes. A perfect cluster. The men in the next lane stopped laughing. Cross removed his sunglasses slowly, eyes fixed on her wrist, on her stance, on the precision he recognized from a lifetime in uniform. He whispered, barely audible, "It's her." The mockers couldn't help themselves. "Whoa, lucky shots." One said, forcing a laugh, "Beginner's luck." Maria just emptied her magazine, reloaded, and fired again. Another perfect grouping. The younger man's smile faded. "Okay, what the hell?" Commander Cross finally spoke. "That's not luck." His voice cut through the noise like a blade. The 2 men turned, suddenly realizing who was standing behind them. Their confidence evaporated. Cross stepped into Maria's lane, slow and cautious, like approaching a long, lost memory. "Ma'am," he said softly, "where did you learn to shoot like that?" Maria glanced at him, polite but reserved. "Just life and practice." Cross swallowed hard. He had heard that tone before. Calm, humble, hiding oceans of pain. One of the mockers tried to repair his earlier tone. "Heya. Look, we didn't mean." Cross spun on him so fast the kid flinched. "You don't mock someone you don't know," he said sharply, "especially someone who shoots tighter groups than your entire squad." The younger man nodded quickly, face red. Maria exhaled quietly, embarrassed by the attention. "It's okay, really." But Cross wasn't looking at her hands anymore. He was staring at the tattoo. Finally, he asked, barely above a whisper, "Where did you get that?" Maria froze. Her sleeve dropped slightly, covering the mark. She looked away, her throat tightening. "That was a long time ago," she murmured. "Another life." Cross stepped closer, voice cracking despite his effort to keep it steady. "Afghanistan, Kandahar, Sector Delta." His voice trembled. "Were you there?" Her eyes widened, just for a moment, then softened with a quiet, painful acceptance. "Yes." He swallowed. He knew. "What was your unit?" he asked. Maria didn't answer right away. Her eyes drifted to the desert horizon, as if trying to push away old ghosts. Finally, Army Combat Medic, 9th Forward Unit. Cross's heart pounded. He took off his cap. Then you're her. His voice cracked. You're the medic who saved my life. The range fell silent. Her hands trembled now, just slightly. I saved a lot of lives, Commander. No, he said firmly. You didn't just save mine. You stayed with me when the roof collapsed. You patched me under fire. You held the line until evac arrived. They said you disappeared after that mission. Maria's eyes glistened. I didn't disappear, she whispered. I left. There's a difference. Cross stood there, stunned. The men who mocked her stepped back, suddenly realizing they had been making fun of someone whose scars ran deeper than any of their jokes. Maria finally lowered her gun and sighed. Can we not do this here, please? But Cross wasn't letting her walk away again, not without understanding why she vanished all those years ago. Maria, he said gently, I looked for you. My whole team did. They told us you resigned, no explanation. She nodded slowly, eyes fixed on her hands. I did. Why? He asked. She hesitated, then exhaled shakily. Because I couldn't hold one more dying soldier, she said. Not one more, not after that mission. Her voice cracked. The range blurred behind her, fading into memory. There were too many, she whispered. Too many I couldn't reach. Too many I couldn't save, and after Kandahar, I started seeing them in my sleep, hearing them, in every quiet room. Cross listened in silence. I didn't leave because I was weak, she continued. I left because I was human, and I didn't want to lose the little humanity I had left. Cross felt his chest tighten. The younger shooters stared at the ground, shamed. Maria inhaled, closing her eyes for a moment. The tattoo. The feather. It's for the ones who didn't make it. The initials are theirs, the ones I carry with me. She pulled her sleeve down. Cross felt tears burn behind his eyes. Maria, he whispered, you didn't fail anyone. You did more than any of us. You saved lives we couldn't. She shook her head. I didn't save enough. Cross stepped closer. None of us did. That landed like a heavy weight between them. Then, unexpectedly, Maria's pain turned to something sharp. You don't understand, she said. After that mission, I collapsed, I broke, and when medics break, no one comes to fix us. Cross's jaw tightened. Then let me fix it now. She looked at him, for the first time, really looked, and in his eyes, she saw not a commander, not a SEAL, just a man still haunted by the same ghosts she carried. The range remained silent as Cross placed a protective hand on her shoulder. Maria, you were never forgotten. She swallowed hard. It felt like I was. You weren't. You're the reason I'm alive. You're the reason my team came home. You stop, she whispered. Please. He did. She steadied her breathing. One of the younger shooters stepped forward, shame coloring his voice. Ma'am, I'm really sorry. We shouldn't have. She smiled gently. It's okay. You didn't know. No, Cross said firmly. It's not okay. He turned to them. You mocked someone whose courage would break you in half. Someone who served while you were still in middle school. Someone who held dying soldiers in her arms so your generation wouldn't have to. The young man lowered his head. Maria touched Cross's arm lightly. It's enough, Cross exhaled. Then he did something no one expected. He stepped back, stood tall, and saluted her. A full, formal military salute. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Even the range officer stood still. Maria froze. Commander, don't. You earned this more than anyone here, he said softly. More than me. Her chin trembled, and then, for the first time in 14 years, she accepted a salute. The young men followed suit, awkward but sincere. Maria wiped her eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Cross nodded. Stay, shoot with us. My team would. Love to meet you. No, she said softly. I just wanted one quiet afternoon. He smiled sadly. You've earned 1,000 of those. She packed her pistol into her old canvas tote and turned to leave, but before she walked away, she placed her hand over her tattoo and said, They're always with me, even now. Cross nodded. And because of you, so am I. Maria walked toward the parking lot, the sun setting behind her, the desert sky burned orange, fading into purple. Like a slow, healing breath, Cross watched her go. One of his men approached him cautiously. Sir. Was that really her? Cross nodded. Yea. And now I know why she disappeared. The man swallowed. What do we do now? Cross looked at the lane Maria had left behind. Her perfect grouping still punched into the paper target, unshaken, unmoved. We honor her, he said. And we stopped treating quiet people like they're weak. The younger shooters approached Cross again. Sir, we really messed up. Then learn from it, Cross replied. People carry battles you'll never see. Respect everyone. The boys nodded. Before leaving, Cross walked down to lane 9, pulled the target off the clips, rolled it carefully, and tucked it under his arm. Why keep it? One of his men asked. Cross looked toward the horizon where Maria had disappeared. Because that's the mark of a hero, he said softly, the kind the world never celebrates. He stood there for a long moment, letting the wind carry away the last pieces of an old battlefield he had carried inside him. Maria drove home in silence, her hands still trembling, not from shame, not from fear, but from finally being seen. For years she had believed she was forgotten, just another medic, just another ghost, but today proved something different. Her sacrifices mattered, her scars mattered, her story mattered, and somewhere behind her, a SEAL commander was telling his team about the woman who saved them all. When she reached her driveway, the sun had dipped beyond the mountains. She stepped out of her car, looked down at her tattoo, and whispered, "I did my best." For the first time in years, she believed it. If this story touched your heart, don't let it fade. What would you have done in Commander Cross's place? Tell me in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more real stories. Because truth always finds its way out.